All right. I think I'm live. I think I figured this out for once. Sorry if anybody were on earlier. I didn't realize my mic wasn't muted. I might have cleared my throat a few times. Apologies for that. Um, I'm just monitoring to see that this is going live everywhere like I wanted to. Turn that volume down. There we go. Okay. I think I've got that turned off. Sorry about that. And okay. So real quickly before we get started, I did have something actually queued up to demo today, and hopefully we can demo it next week. And it was thanks to Joe, my friend Joe. We were talking about Employee Center. Someone had asked about Employee Center in the last my test stream last week, and one of the things that's cool about Employee Center is content publishing. So not only authoring the content, but the kind of approvals and release of that content and targeting the specific users. So I do want to cover that. But what I'm showing here behind me is the instance where I did all that prep and got it working. This is what I'm left with. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I broke. I don't know what ServiceNow did. But it's been like this since Monday morning because I was prepping it over the weekend, and I can't get to the instance whatsoever. So what I think I'm going to do is after this live stream is I'll probably end up just releasing this instance and trying again to do that. Um, so I'm not going to be showing Employee Center today. In fact, what I'm going to go expand upon this week is the PDI backups that someone asked about last week. But if you do have a question or want me to highlight something, clarify something, just leave it out in the comments. I've got a new tool I can use today to actually highlight comments. So it'll look kind of like this. I'll just say comment from Justin, but I'll be able to copy and paste those into the screen so that you guys can see. Let me turn off studio mode here. Here we go. So you guys can see if someone leaves a comment and I'm responding to it, what that particular comment is, and I can take that on and off the screen depending on what you guys say. So hopefully between the different platforms, we only got two this week, just like last week, YouTube, LinkedIn. And again, we're going to cover PDI backups next week. Hopefully get back to what I was targeting, which was the employee center and content publishing. That way Joe stays my friend and I actually do it. So, okay. So now let's move into my developer instance. So I actually wanted to talk about this at Knowledge 2024. They declined my topic, and it was specifically about backing up PDIs. And it's important to back up your PDI because we do great work in our PDIs, but they're transient. They can disappear, or like what's happened to me right now, they just completely go offline. You have no idea why, right? And there's no support for PDIs. So it's not like you can go to high support or now ServiceNow support and open a case and have them troubleshoot something. You're kind of on your own. I believe you can email, and that takes a little while. And I've done that once before, but when I got locked out of an instance, but I ended up having to release the instance and rebuild it. And that's the point. And what I wanted to show today is kind of what do you want to cover when you're rebuilding or backing up a PDI or personal developer instance. The most simplest form is to actually just use your update set. So hopefully anybody who's watching this knows what an update set is. And you can take these update sets and you can export them. So here I've got in this default system admin update set for my application called Justin's House. You can see down below the updates for it. And so I could take this, I have to mark it as complete, and then I'd be able to export that update set and bring it somewhere else, right? So that's a way to move my configuration and back up my configuration, but it's very manual and it wasn't going to work for me. In fact, I came around to ServiceNow with the Kingston release, so that gives you an idea of how long I've been doing ServiceNow. And update sets were great, right? They were just this huge um, improvement over previous systems that I'd used in order to move your configurations from things like test to production or from development to test and then production, stuff like that. I just thought it was great. And then what happened well after Kingston, before, by the time I discovered it, was backing up the source code. So a lot of what I do now, I go through App Engine Studio. You can go through the Legacy Studio app. I haven't seen it work in ServiceNow Studio yet. I haven't done, and actually, it's prompting me to get out of App Engine Studio and go into ServiceNow Studio. But there's no like sync my application to GitHub, which is where I store most of my stuff. So here's my Justin's House application. It should open up here, but there's no ability yet. I'm hoping they get that soon where I can uh, synchronize or back up my apps to source code. So here it is in App Engine. I open up Justin's House, and on the upper right is going to be, I think, this huge big ass banner, my source control, right? So I can commit my changes, I can fork it, create a branch, start working on something without disrupting the main branch. I can pull it. Maybe I did something in a different instance. Sorry, I'm getting tongue tied. And I want to bring those changes here, or maybe I want to stash my changes that I've made here and bring back down whatever is in the repo, the repository. So that is like primary update set alternative for backing up my PDI. All of my applications that I'm working with, you can see them here. See all my apps. Justin's House, ServiceNow store updates, the release notes. I played around with Dolly and the spoke there. When I did the Now SDK, I made an app in there, and so this might be the only one that's not backed up to source code. Actually, yeah. So this is not backed up to source code, and if you want to link it to source code, you follow these steps, right? So you give it the URL of your repo, you give it a branch. I don't use the ServiceNow naming conventions for the branch. I put everything in main. It used to be called master in GitHub. And then I don't do it through a mid server. I default the email to my email, which I now just put on the live stream. Oops. Please, everybody, don't email me. And then you have to provide it a credential. And so I actually use, since I use GitHub, I use repo specific credentials. And so you can see there, I have a credential for each repository in GitHub. And I just do that because I prefer the least privilege model, the least privileged security model of if I create a credential, it only has access to exactly what it needs. So that's backup, 101 is make sure my application itself and anything I configure in that is backed up. But that doesn't back up data, right? Okay, so it backs up your configurations, it backs up your um, settings, anything that will go to an update set, right? It gets backed up. In fact, what I believe, and don't quote me on this, but what I believe is over in GitHub is actual update sets, or the content of the update sets. But it's somehow related. And I've poked in and out and looked at it, and I just get out of it because it's. I'm just glad it works, right? So I can sync it. I can then pull it back into another instance. One of the apps that I actually have here that I haven't shown before is called App Finder, and it's basically an application that updates all the applications in the instance. I had that on several instances where I can keep the apps up to date, right? They're not production instances, but stuff where I demo from or stuff in my PDI, and I just want to maintain the 300 updates that come out in a quarter release and not have to sit there and schedule or hit the button to approve them all. I've got an app that does that. But the point of highlighting that is it's in source code or it's in GitHub. So I can take this application and I can load it in many instances and use it and take advantage of it. So there's that part of it. And if you're not doing that, I strongly recommend it. Um, but if you want to back up, you could back up the update sets, or you could use source control, like I'm showing you here. This is not the only way to get to it through App Engine Studio. I've mentioned earlier you can go through the Legacy Studio, which I'm going to pull up here if it'll let me. Studio. This is the old Studio, which is also prompting to use ServiceNow Studio. And then notice here I can import from source control. So it's like the same dialogue that we saw in App Engine Studio, just in the core UI or the legacy UI, and so you can back up to source. This is getting deprecated eventually. They haven't officially had deprecation for Studio. It is getting deprecated. So I wouldn't recommend going that route. Use App Engine Studio. And then one day I may figure out a way to what I ideally, because of the way I work, I would like to synchronize my apps to source control like every night, right? I did a bunch of stuff. I just want my changes to be backed up. And so I haven't figured out a way to do that. If I do, I'll definitely post a video or show on the live stream exactly how to do that. So that's the first part, number one. The second part is the data that I mentioned earlier. And this is what I kind of showed in the live stream last week when someone asked about how do you back up your PDI. And hopefully you know about export sets. So let me say a little bit about that. Export sets are a way for you to get data out of ServiceNow There's many ways to get data out of ServiceNow, but export sets is one of the ones, especially if you're doing something like um, you have massive amounts of data, like more than 10,000 rows, I think used to be the limit. So let me explain that real quick. So let's go to a list of incidents right here. I can get data out of my instance by hitting the ellipsis, the vertical ellipsis on any one of these columns and going to export to Excel, CSV, XML, JSON, PDF, or an export set. The limitation of doing something, let's say, let's just do Excel. Everybody knows Excel. The limitation is it's a system property. It used to be 10,000 records. I think you can increase it or decrease it. But you're limited on the number of records. And it's also manual. So what I just did was I right clicked, went to the table, right clicked, and exported. That's a viable option. You could definitely do that, download the file, go put it somewhere. Maybe that's the extent of the backup that you need for your instance. Perfectly cool, perfectly acceptable. Um, but I wanted something more automated that was going to back up all my stuff all the time. So I went with export sets. And it's part of defining your export sets. You tell it the definition, which is usually a table, and the target, which is usually a mid server, and it writes it. So on the left hand side, you can see, and this is kind of dipping into each one of my applications, right? So I've got the ServiceNow release notes, the ServiceNow store updates, my Justin's House application, which kind of runs everything. AppMinder was one of them. So you can see I've got like application crawl history here, or checklist, which is a system platform feature. My content, so this would be actual video content that I produce. I've got some summaries, a table for the content, tags for my content, tasks related to my content. So you can see how important this is to me to actually back up. The goal table, I started using goals and strategic planning as part of my freelancing and stuff like that. So I'm backing up those every day to make sure that I don't lose my goals if something happens to my instance or I decide to go somewhere else. Um, Data sources, I'm backing up. Data sources are data sources. They are where you're. How do I say that? It's it is. Actually, I'm gonna have to open that. I can't remember what my data source table is. Essentially, if I have an attachment, I believe is what I was using that for, that I want to upload or import or something like that. I would use it as a data source, and then I can use an import set in order to look at that data source and bring it into ServiceNow. So it's like the opposite of an export set. I should have started that off that way. So data sources are data that you're trying to bring into the instance, and you use an import set in order to get it there. So I'm backing up those because I part of my content crawling, not content, part of my ServiceNow store crawling and documentation crawling uses data sources, right? So there's index files on those, and I bring those as data sources. But I'll continue on. My export definitions I actually back up. The export sets themselves, the export targets, because when you're building a brand new PDI from scratch, you have to think about all those different things, all those different tables you're using in the platform that you're going to have to reset up when you go into the new instance that you're restoring everything to. So that's why I'm backing up stuff like that. Let's see if there's anything else unusual. Incidents, that's common. Knowledge articles. I actually don't use knowledge as much as I originally thought I would be using knowledge. There's Jace's data source for his news.jace.pro. If you don't go there, there's a plug for Jace's site. It's where I get a lot of my ServiceNow news from. Portfolios, project requirements, release note pages. There's my scheduled data exports, right? So I've got the export sets, the targets, the definitions, but then you have the scheduling of those, right? So I've got all those scheduled. I don't want to have to rebuild all those schedules every time, so I export that. Um, Anything else unusual? No, everything else is pretty normal. Stories coming from Agile. I'm probably going to use stories as part of my overall process for managing. I'm not going to like size them and put them in a sprint or anything, but it is a nice kind of record of. It's not an idea. It's not something I just thought of and want to write down really quick. It's something I want to work on and put in the backlog, but I'm not going to work in the true Agile methodology. So this is the export sets. The schedules for these all over the place for my PDI. I did that for two reasons. Number one, I didn't want a bunch of export sets happening at a certain time of day, right? That's obvious performance. Second reason is I try to keep my PDI alive. I don't know if you guys run into this. They like to hibernate, and sometimes they get really aggressive about hibernating the PDIs. And so my strategy was, well, I'll just have exports running, odd hours all throughout the day. and maybe that will decrease the likelihood of my PDI going into hibernation. It still does, right? Every once in a while, if I don't log in for a day or two, my PDI will go into hibernation, and that's fine. But most of the time, I'm in there every day, and these things are running every day. So what happens with these? And that's really what I want to show you. I actually don't have that application up, so you're gonna have to bear with me. You're gonna get a live demo of me remoting into my Windows PC, which is actually right there. You can't see it. My Windows PC has allow Microsoft. I hate these warnings from Mac. Like, I don't even know what I'm saying when I say allow or don't allow, but I mean it is a remote desktop, so whatever. It didn't like that. Let's try that again. Okay. Um, I don't want to put my email address on the screen again for everybody, so let me just move this over to another screen again real quick. There we go. You could probably figure out what my email address is, but that's my Windows email address. I think I plugged Bitwarden the last time I was on here, so if you don't use Bitwarden, highly recommend it. I store all my passwords there. I'll come and hack me. It's pretty hard to do so, and that should log me in. I'm going to probably get a full screen here. Yep. Let's just kill this full screen. All right. So there's my Windows PC. And this is where, so just so you know, I use a Mac for most everything, video editing, you know, most of my day-to-day stuff. But I had a Windows PC when I had a job that used Windows. And so that's what we're looking at here is it's a blank Windows PC. That is running my mid server. So that's where my mid server runs. And let's go ahead and we're just going to go to a command line in my mid server because I want to show you where the backups are. So let's just I don't even know where I am, so let's just current working directory. Ah, don't make fun of my bash skills. I don't use it enough. Come on. Let's see. I think it's in OPT. Yeah. All right. And then mid server, and then I should have an agent folder. Yep. Going to go into agent, and then there should be an export folder, which you can see right there. So I'm in opt slash snc underscore mid underscore server slash agent, and then we're going to go into the export folder. And in the export folder, I should see anything that's been any of those export sets that have been running today. So my content table already ran at some point today. So you can see the XML file. I'm using XML is the format that I chose. When you're doing your export sets, just like the UI, you can do Excel, XML, CSV, JSON. I don't know about the PDF, but you get options around how to export that. But I'm doing all that. It throws it in that folder. And then I have a job that runs on my Windows PC that picks up those files once a day and copies them out to Google Drive, right? So I'll show you what that looks like. We'll just open up Explorer here in Windows, and I have Google Drive right there. So this is, I put my email address out there again. Darn it. Let's hide that real quick. Okay, so there's my drive. And then if I go down to ServiceNow, and then we go to this particular instance, I have a backup batch file. If you're not familiar, a BAT or a batch file in Windows, this is how you do some automation. Let me see if I can just open that in Notepad++ and show you. Every time I open Notepad++, this sucker wants to update. We're not going to do that in the live stream. So there's Notepad++, and you can see what's going on. So I make a directory locally on Windows. I copy everything using the Windows subsystem for Linux, WSL command, to run a Docker copy command from the container from that same directory that we were just looking at. Zoom in a little bit on this so you guys can see. There you go. So it's that same directory, and then I'm copying it to my local folder that I just made up here, this document PDI export. But what I'm doing is I'm putting underneath the folder an export folder with the date associated with it. So you've got whatever date that export was from. Then it copies everything over to Google Drive, which you can see here, and then it removes everything that it pulled over. This has bit me a couple of times, so if you try to do something similar, you may want to do something different. Because I don't have any logic that's checking that the X copy was successful, I have then removed it, and it actually didn't back everything up. It didn't put everything in Google Drive because of whatever reason, because Google Drive wasn't mounted. There was an error message that I didn't interact with. whatever reason. It doesn't happen very often, but I probably should add some logic here to go verify the files got copied and then remove the directory. But I just remove the directory and then I clean up on the mid server itself using this WSL Docker command to execute a bash command to go in and rm-force everything from that export folder. So that's remove with the force option and then a star asterisk for everything. So all this stuff beforehand is just telling Docker to run a bash command on that particular container. And then this is the actual bash command that's getting executed. So it essentially cleans it up. And then what I'm left with, if we go back here, I have an exports folder. There's that date, so you can see every date timestamp. So look at today. There's all the stuff that got backed up this morning. So that folder was what time was that created? 7 a.m. this morning, I guess, is when my batch file runs, and then it copied all of those exports. Now, not all of my stuff is running every single day. Some stuff is running once a week. Some stuff is running once a month. I even have some stuff that's kind of manual, but that's where it's putting them. And then what I do manually right now, because of the issue I just mentioned, where sometimes the exports don't happen, or sometimes the mid server goes down and my don't get notified or something. So I come in here and just clean these up, and I keep about 30 days worth of exports. So I'm actually a little bit behind because today's the 18th. So let's just go ahead and do it while I'm in here. I'm just going to delete these and empty those out. So those are going to go in the trash at some point in Google Drive, and I'll have all my backups from November 18th right there. There's a great example of not everything gets backed up every time, all the way through December 18th, which was today. We're actually doing this. So there you can see. This is actually interesting because what happened when I had a recent issue with my mid server, um, the the exports were exporting, but this batch file didn't get updated with the new container name, which is at the time it was like Wayne or something like that. Now it's called Interesting Thompson, but I didn't come in here and update it because my documentation didn't have that step to come in and update that. So when I was restoring my mid server, or when I was restoring, or fixing this, I didn't put that in. So the backups were running and running and running, and nothing was copying over. And so then I ended up on November 20th with everything kind of catching up with a couple days worth of stuff. So it's like the 15th through the 19th or the 20th there. So that's essentially where they go. And then, if that's not enough, that's backed up, right? So you've got the application that's backed up to source code. You've got the data itself that's backed up to XML files, like you're seeing here. Then I take those and copy them to Google Drive where I know they're safe. I could copy them to multiple cloud providers, like it could be Google Drive, it could be OneDrive, it could be Box, it could be Dropbox, which is Box. I can't remember. So you've got options there, just as much as you want to mount a cloud folder and then do an Xcopy command like I'm doing here with the patch file in Windows. I can do that. One day I might do all this on my Mac too, but right now I got it all working on Windows, so just leave well enough alone. But the other part I want to show you, and I'm going to have to open yet another instance of Google Chrome with my documentation, is how do I actually like restore, right? So if I go into, let's see, my documentation folder, you guys can't see what I'm doing, so I drag this over on the screen. Mid server, mid on Docker container build, copy Docker image. I think it must be this one. Yeah. No. That's not everything. Okay, that's how I build a Docker container. Which I saw a post from Jace. I don't know if he's actually watching. There's somebody who's actually hosting Docker images now that are backwards compatible mid servers for multiple releases. I saved it away as something for you to go look at. But I've been building my mid server containers myself using the ServiceNow documentation. Yeah, someone Jace actually is the one that I saw that for. Where is my uh, instructions for restoring? I know I've had to do this. So let me go into this folder. There we go. Is it this one? Yeah. So oh, that's right. So I make a copy of this document and update it because it varies every time. But I'll highlight the important parts here. When you are doing this strategy, right? So you've got maybe you're backing up the source code, maybe you're backing up the update sets, and then you're backing up the data. You got to think about the order that you're restoring things in your destination instance. And that includes things like installing applications that belong to some of those data sets. So you'll notice here in my list, I'm doing things like installing Integration Hub, Employee Center, project and portfolio management because that has the projects and epics and project tasks, agile development because it has epics and stories, strategic planning because of the goal management, portfolio planning because of the goal management that I was doing. There's the goal framework. So I need all this stuff installed in the instance before I could do any restores from my exported data. So you're seeing this is me documenting exactly what I'm restoring in my PDI. Then I'm granting some permissions. Then I'm granting roles to a particular group that's backed up. So you can see all the different roles there to make sure everything's working. And then I'm putting personal asset. Okay, so I'm gonna have to putting secrets out there. But then there's these, uh, yeah, I just sucks that I just put that out there, but that's okay. I'll go change the codes on there. But that's essentially what I have to do in order to create the credentials in order to restore those applications. So we'll scroll past that really quick. And then there's some number maintenance. I have found like, I don't know about you guys, um, when I'm restoring my applications, sometimes the number maintenance records populate and sometimes they don't. And I'll know this because I'll do all the stuff to restore my PDI, and then I'll be looking at like let's say an episode of SSH which has like a number in front of it. It'll start over. I'll be like, WTF? Why did it start over? It's because my number maintenance records were missing. Now sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. So I don't know about if that's happened to you guys in the real world, but that has happened to me. Oh, wow, I just showed my mid server password. That's me building the mid server, and then let's see, where I was trying to get to was create a folder, confirmed export. That's me doing the exports. I don't actually see where I'm doing the imports, but I do them. But you can see here, this is like 76 steps, right, for me to restore a PDI from scratch, right? So if I was to release my PDI right now, I'd make a copy of this document. I'd start walking through all the different steps, and I maintain this. And I recommend that you do the same thing, right? Because like I could show you mine, but when I did, I showed you too much. But your mileage is going to vary. You're going to have different stuff that you want to back up. You're going to have different applications that you want to install. Maybe you're a SecOps guy, or maybe you're a integrated risk management woman, or maybe you're doing something else in ServiceNow, HR. And so those applications might be important to you. The important part is to document what you're doing, and that way you're able to repeat it in the future. Now, yes, this could be a knowledge base article, but do it in Google Docs and restore everything. So that's essentially my backup strategy. That's what I'm doing. When we pause for a second, we've got a couple of viewers both on LinkedIn and YouTube. Um, I know the viewership and attendees are low, and that's kind of intentional. I didn't actually publish today's announcement for the live stream until probably a couple hours before, because I knew the issues that were going on, and so this wasn't going to be a traditional demo. But if those of you who are watching or listening have a question or want me to show something again besides my passwords, feel free to leave a note in the comments. I can share that and tell everybody. But that's what I had today was kind of walk through how I'm backing up my PDI, and then I found myself into actually restoring my PDI, which you're seeing there in my documentation. So let me shut up for a second, see if there's any comments, questions. There's actually a little bit of a delay too between me talking and you hearing me, so give you guys a second. And actually, I know something we can do for the second half here. I can actually go do my app updates is actually what I'll do. So the second half of this will be me doing, if there's no comments, right, I'll keep an eye on the comments over there. They're on my left-hand side. If there's no comments, I'm going to go ahead and update my PDI, which is always fun. So I'll start on that. The objective now is going to be updating the. You know, I just realized you guys aren't seeing my logo. That's Oh, that's right. My logo is something I add in my video editing. I actually don't record the logo because of the zoom in, zoom out stuff. So that's why. So I'll need to add my list get a logo there in the upper left on this one. So I'll get that. Okay. Anyways, so I've shown you backing up to repositories, and I've shown you how to use export sets and my documentation for how I bring all that back in. But another thing in maintaining your PDI or in maintaining any instance is what we probably all know and love, the application manager. Now, I do like the newer application manager. I prefer this experience now. I think I flipped to it immediately as it came out. But let's go ahead and sync the store because that's where most of my updates are going to come from, and I haven't synced since last week on December 11th. So we'll go ahead and get that synced. And once that syncs, we should see probably more than 9 application updates. And then I'll show you how I manage those updates using my application rather than using this interface. Why I love this interface, it's just not practical when there's 300 updates, right? I need to click on every single one of these, review process automation designer, look at the version release notes that you can see down here. I love it. This is all great stuff, but it doesn't help me in actually doing the updates. Did I just miss a note? Let's see. Joe, thank you. You can't send a chat. This icon is not working. Joe, where are you at? Are you at YouTube or are you? Welcome to chat. Remember to guard your privacy. Do I have like security turned on? So let me try sending a chat. Joe's on YouTube, I can tell. Chat on YouTube. So hopefully you guys saw that. Now let me see. There are some settings. Participants. He's on YouTube. All right. So Joe just got that through. Okay. Maybe whatever I did got chat's working. So, or it's a problem with Joe. We'll blame Joe. But Joe, did you have a comment? Is this something you wanted to see? You might be typing. We'll give him a second here. Okay, so what I was saying, I'll just keep an eye over there, Joe. What I was saying, this is a great way to see what's available for your instance, see information about it. But practically speaking, when you have more than 10 of these, coming here, clicking proceed to update, reviewing the dependencies, you can do it now, or you can set it to install later, pick a date and time. That's all great, but it wasn't what I needed, and I needed something more robust, let's just say. So let's go back to, oh my gosh, are the breadcrumbs broken here too? I can't get back to the list of applications. Are you serious? So this has been a bug that's been driving me nuts. I talked about it on the last live stream, but I was in a strategic planning workspace, and you can't go back. So is having an issue right now. You just saw me in the application manager, so let's try going back this way. There we go. So the breadcrumbs are still broken, even though I installed the updates for the UID wrapper components. So now I'm frustrated. This is me frustrated. Okay, so let's click on updates. I still have 9 of them, so that's actually not bad. Let's look at them here. Process automation, employee center core, security center. Yeah, Joe, look at that content publishing. This is what I wanted to show you guys in this particular demo. I didn't even know I had this installed on this personal developer instance, so maybe I could have demoed this. But anyways, we'll leave that for next week. So I have 9 applications that I need to update. And the way I do it is I use something I've called set up as an app called AppMiner. And so I'm just going to go over to my workspace, Justin's house. Let's get rid of SSH there. I have a dashboard here for AppMiner. And essentially, this lets me know how many updates were detected, and then as it's managing and moving through those and updating them, this will actually update. So I have a catalog item that I use to actually query the application update. So all I have to do is come in, click order now, and it will go query all the applications that need to be updated, updates the catalog items, you can see the activity there. It prepares a update history table, then it prepares the application table, and then it retrieves the application updates. All of this is happening inside the instance, right? So once you sync the store, there's some internal tables that are monitoring what app versions are, and that's kind of how that's one of the ways that app everything works. But let's go back to our workspace now, which I don't know how I got into the view I'm in. That's really weird. But there's my workspace. If I go back to App Finder, I should see there's those 9 updates. So I've got 9 updates, which matches what we saw in the application manager. If I click on those, we can see that Security Center, Platform Analytics, everything that was on the list, right? Now, in order to control whether I do something stupid or not, because I have actually done something stupid. I think this was back when I worked for a partner. Those of you who know me probably know who that partner is, but I won't mention it on the live stream. I did this particular activity and I approved something that brought in all of integrated risk management because whatever the update was, got a new dependency associated with it from ServiceNow, right? They control what applications are dependent on what. At some point, this particular app had a new dependency on integrated risk management. And so it pulled in the entire application and installed it. And it was like, no, I was like, I had everything on this instance that wasn't integrated risk management, which is a huge application. And I pulled it in there and I was stuck with it. So luckily, those instances, they get replaced once a year as the new releases come out. So it wasn't a big deal. But if you haven't been in a workspace before, I'm sure you have. Did you know that you can actually bulk update on these list views? It doesn't work like it does in the core UI. So I can't shift and drag. I can't click and drag. You're seeing that actually not working. But what you can do is you can click and then shift and down arrow to highlight all of those rows. So I don't know if you know that. I was actually going to make a video on that. I still might do that. But if you're let's actually go out to the core UI or the legacy UI, and we'll just see applications to review. What you used to be able to do is to hold your shift key and then click and drag, and then double click somewhere and update all of them at once. That doesn't work in the workspaces. So if we go to the workspace back here, I can't shift and drag, but I can click and then shift down arrow to select all of them, and then I can change it to update approved. Let's walk through these dates here. So update detected is kind of my first stopgap of let Justin actually look at what's being needs to be updated before we approve all of these. Then I can update them all to approved. When I update them all to approved, it will copy this information to another table that some progress workers will actually start working through to update the applications. And then I can say, hey, I don't want to do this app. I'm going to update it to update deferred, and that way I don't process the update. So that would be in my example there where I pulled in integrated risk management by accident. That application I should have deferred, and I didn't. The progress workers, as they're moving through, there's some logic in the workflow that to come back and say there was an error in installing and we weren't able to install it, or it's up to date. So this is just keeping track of the history there. So let's go ahead and bulk update these using my nifty trick there, and we'll change this to update approved. Click OK. Like I said, that is going to go put them in a different table, and that different table will be these actual managed applications. I believe it is. But let's just refresh the whole dashboard. So now I have 0 updates detected, 9 updates approved, and 201 applications that have been updated at some point in the past. But there's my 9 update approved. You can see them all there. I always double check this to make sure, but we can see what the installed version is, and there's a couple other fields that are missing here. Let me see. Should be a 2 version, installed version, and where is the latest version? Okay, so it was right there. You just couldn't see it. You just scroll over. So I've got the installed version on this column, the latest version kind of behind my head on that column. And you can see all of these are going to get updated to that latest version. So I have another catalog item. Once I've done all my approving and processing, I just come over here and say, hey, I want to process all the approved updates. I order that, and that catalog item has a flow associated with it, and it's just going to go through and start updating those applications. Now, because I know how I design this, I can actually go look at how that's progressing because I'm using something what ServiceNow calls progress workers. to actually manage that. So let's go into my app miner menu here, and we'll just look at the progress workers. And you can see I have a progress worker that's updating Security Center from version 2.0.1 to 2.0.4. I kind of define what this text is. The progress worker logic itself handles the state management and the messages that are coming up on this side here. But this will continue to run for all 9 of those updates. And what's nice is I can walk away at this point. So this thing, you can see the messages are getting updated. It's loading 1 of 29 files now. It'll just sit there and wait for these progress workers to finish. Now it's finishing, finished installing. And then it'll have there's a little timer, and then it'll just check in. Hey, is it still running? Yeah, it's still running. Go back to sleep, and then it'll move on to the next tab. So if you've been through a quarterly release, um, there's a good couple hundred apps, depending on what you have installed, what you're using in your instance, that you got to manage. This just lets me kind of approve all 150, hit process updates, and I can walk away, and it'll churn for a day and a half, however long it takes, and it'll update all those applications. It's not meant to be performant. I didn't need it to do it on a certain time. Like you may be thinking, for your sub-production or production instances, how can we update faster? That's not what this was intended for. This was just me managing applications in the personal developer instance or in demo instances where I'm trying to show customers or potential customers how stuff works, like live demos like this, right? So I usually have a dedicated instance, and when I say usually, if you missed the first part of the screen of the stream, there is this particular issue where oh my god, it came back up. No way. Did someone like watch this and fix it for me? This did not just happen. I'm just gonna refresh. I got signed out. I knew that was too good to be true. I was like, no way. It updated. Um, when the stream we're 42 minutes into the stream of the PDI. Yeah, yeah, okay. I just hit refresh. I was gonna have to log back in. So when stuff like this happens, is what I would say there. But this is an instance I wanted just for demos, not for me playing around and doing things that might screw up a demo, and it's offline. So like I said earlier, I'm probably gonna release this after this. But let's just refresh. Okay, this one's complete, and there will be a little bit of delay with this application before it kicks off the next one, but it will kick off there in a minute or so, and move through all 9 of those apps. If we go back to the workspace there, and I can just go back to AppMinder and refresh all that, and we should see, yeah, it's still processing. We've got 9 there approved. Um, Joe, did I lose you? I never did see a comment. Did you text me back? No, you didn't text me. Just waiting for the next progress record here. I don't know how long that delay is, but I can show you what's actually running since that is running. We've got a few minutes left here. That actual workflow that's managing the process updates is actually pretty interesting. There's there's an action in the workflow itself. This is an interesting tidbit. I think I even published a video on this at some point, but there's one action, custom action in the workflow or in the flow in Flow Designer. And earlier I wanted to, okay, hold on. Should just write me a book. All right, okay, Joe, we're gonna test something out. I'm gonna remove your last name from putting on the screen. Let's just try my new trick so everybody knows what I'm responding to. He put it in 2 messages. He's making me copy and paste a lot. Oh, there's a 200 character limit. Okay, I didn't know that. I'll save that. Now, ah, the word wrap isn't on. Let me fix this. I can fix this. Is this fixable? Um, Properties. Let me show you what I'm doing. I don't know if this is going to show. Sometimes I think I've got OBS Studio to hide stuff. And it needs to be word wrap. It is word wrap. Oh, interesting. Let's try manually word wrapping. This is like pre 2000, um, the year 2000, uh, text file management. See if that updates. Okay, I got some bugs to work out in my show the comment. I don't even know what this little square is before earlier because it's not in my text file, but it is in the screen. So you can see what I'm doing. There's this little button. Do I have caps lock on or something? Okay. I don't know what's going okay, but let's answer the question. Okay. Earlier, he wanted to thank me for the review of export sets, had to use them in the past to export CI data to a mid server and then run a PowerShell script to move the file to another server to be ingested to another platform. A lot like how you have yours configured. Yeah, so PowerShell would be as an alternative to a batch file using the Windows command line, essentially. PowerShell is cooler. Actually, I loved working with PowerShell when I was a Microsoft engineer. I even went to a class um, for Power. What did that guy? The instructor said for PowerShell, he had this saying because in PowerShell there's this concept of waiting, and him would say like I don't know whatever you export to the pipe, or he had some saying he said, but I can't remember what it was, but it was funny. But yeah, cool. Glad that helped. Um, and I'm glad you put in a comment that exceeded 200 characters because now I know that displaying them on the screen, I've got some work to do to make that actually look better than it does right now. So it's still bugging me about how it looks, and I want to fix it, but that's a little bit better. So I'm just resizing it. I don't know how well visible that is on the. I mean, it looks. I can read it. Hopefully, you guys can read it. So I might in the future put like maybe a background on that so that I can so it's more legible. But yeah, first time I've done that, so we can definitely improve there. The other thing that didn't work today too was the music. I had copyright-free music that wasn't annoying. It was kind of like some chill hop, and it was playing for me, but you guys couldn't hear it on the pre-live stream. But anyways, okay. So I was talking about AppMinder workflow. Let's turn Joe's comment off. There we go. And so I need to pull that up and show you. Actually, we should be able to see it in the operations tab because it should be running right now. Today's executions, and then we'll do update application. Process updates is the one. So you can see there that they're both waiting, right? So there's a lot of waiting. Let's see what's going on here with the progress workers. Yeah, it's still waiting. Um, but let's show you. I've got flow reporting turned off, so I can't show you the in progress one, but we can show you what that looks like here. Query, update, create. I think it's a subflow process updates. Maybe we should do a video or live stream on flows versus subflows. But yeah, here's the subflow. So what's happening is it's looking up from this table where the state is pending, and then it's going to loop through each of the applications. If it is a store application, because there are applications that aren't store applications, then it's going to run a custom action called update store application. So let's open that one up. See what that custom action looks like. This is the one that must be in. Let's make sure here. Yeah. It has to be in global scope for this to run. So I even got instructions to myself to copy this action to global scope and then publish it. And then I have to fix the workflow every time I put this application in another instance because what I'm using down here in the script step are these worker glide scripted hierarchical worker. Um, only seems to work in or is it this part? I think either that part or it might be this part that only work in global scope. So you can't run them in a custom scope like my AppMinder application. So this particular step has to be in global scope. You can see there again, I've got instructions to myself because I'll forget to do that. But that's the custom action there. And so it updates that by creating the worker, and that's what these little progress workers are. These are the hierarchical workers. I'm kind of puzzled that we're not seeing any more yet. I don't know how long that wait is. But then it gets the current date and time, which for crying out loud, you think this would be. a pre-built action. It is not for some reason, and I hope someone can tell me I'm wrong, and I don't have to have this custom action as part of all my apps. But I literally have an app, or I have a custom action that simply has a script for new glide day time, so that I can use that in my flow. I don't know why that doesn't exist, and I have to. That's the only way I've been able to figure out how to get the current date time and populate it on a record um, without doing any kind of craziness. There's the wait timer, 1 minute. So I don't know why we've been sitting here waiting, but it'll check for active progress workers if it does have any. That's the script step two. Open that up here. So let's just do a query of all the assist progress workers, looking for the state of running, and then if it's found anything, it's false, or didn't find anything, it's false. If it did find something, it's true. So that's what's happening there. And then it just does that until all of them are false, gets the localized store version, and then if all that it checks out, so I'm checking the installed version now matches the record I had for what the version we were going to. And so if it does match, right, this is the check. Did it actually install or not? It'll update. And if it doesn't match, it will basically, this is what I was telling you, put that error message in. So it will update both the history record and the application record with a state of error. And I know if I need to go do something manually. And that does happen like once every 2 moons. I'll run my app minder updater. It'll update all the apps, and it'll be one application that won't update. And honestly, coming here to the admin menu, application manager for one application isn't so bad. It's the 100, 200, 300 applications that is pain in the butt, which is why I made that application to manage this. Um, it did show that the one got installed at the security center, but doesn't seem to be picking up on the rest of them. But I will leave it alone because I usually just set this and forget it. So I will leave it alone, let it do its thing. Looks like if you look at the operations that it was sitting there waiting. Yeah, they're both waiting. Um, that's interesting. This is the one that's waiting update applications. Let me just check that real quick. Will it let me open it? No, it won't let me open that one. And that's a good call out there. I have workflow reporting or flow reporting turned off for most of my stuff, and so you'll see this error message where you can't see the history of it, and that's a performance thing. It's not writing all that stuff and storing it all. I just turn them all off, and you can turn them on back on individually. But let's go ahead and see if we can find that flow for AppMinder. We've got a few minutes left here. Update applications. Look up history. I work process. So this is the subflow we are just looking at where it tries that, and then look up history. So I don't know where it's stuck at, but it's stuck somewhere waiting in here. I don't even see. Well, if this is waiting, then this flow will be waiting. So that might be why both say waiting. And I go to operations here. Yeah, they both say waiting. So if process updates is waiting, this obviously is going to wait for that to finish. But this shouldn't be waiting anymore. That should be finished. And here's another kind of, there used to be in the old Flow Designer experience, I could check a box on this, and then there was a drop down menu up here to cancel, and I'd be able to speed things along because I know this is finished, but I don't have the option here. Let's see. There's my flow context there behind my head, and oh, there's Joe's comment again. Let's turn it off. I don't have a cancel here, so yeah. Anyways, that's how I update my applications. So you got two things in today's live demo. One was how to back up your PDI, some strategies there for backing. Oh, and I should plug Earl Duque uh, from the ServiceNow Dev Advocates team. He has a blog post for all the different ways to back up your PDI. And I was doing this before he posted it, but it was really validating and to see it. He's got all the different options, like from update sets to GitHub to, or code repository to, I don't know if he covers like sets or not, but it's a very lengthy blog article. Go to developer.servicenow.com. Because remember how to get to the blog from here. Shorter, shorter versus. This is the fun of working with ServiceNow is remembering where everything. Oh, there it is. Blog is remembering where everything is. Here's the Dev Advocates blog, so we'll just search for backup. And I know Earl published it, so we'll just look for his name. Upgrade your ServiceNow cloning experience. Nope. So let's just search for PDI. Lots of issues with PDIs not appearing. Well, I'll have to find this blog article. Maybe I'll update the show notes or the description with a link to it because I know he published it. It's funny that the result count keeps growing as I click through these. It's like there was one page and now there's 4 pages. When we scroll down, maybe there'll be 5 pages. Yeah. Oh, it's searching the whole community. Good grief. Now, you guys saw me. It said search this blog, and somehow I got into the whole community. What is going on? Developer Advocate blog. Search this blog, right? This blog, and we'll search for PDI. I'll search the whole community. Okay, did it again. Oh no, wait, I've got Developer Advocate blog right here. There's Lauren's post about Creator Studio, build custom AI skills, promote tables, tech now, release content. Oh no, can't find it. It was such a good article. And they probably posted way too many. Let's see if they have vision contest, creator to home, guest articles, hack, meetup, MVP, podcast, tech now, Washington TV. I don't see it there. Darn it. I was hoping to show you this before we end the live stream. I'm determined. I'm not out of time yet. Man, Earl's been busy. There's Chuck. My heat just came on. Good grief. That was getting hot in here. Well, that's a bummer. I can't find it. You know, Google actually might be better. Upgrading your PI. I'm showing up as the first result. I did not expect that. I'm getting ads. Did I include a link to it on this one? Yes, yes, I did. Okay. How to back up your personal developer instance. Man, we had 2 minutes left. Okay, so this is the one. Did Earl write this? Yes, Earl wrote it October 21st, 2022. Um, Studio, App Engine Studio updates that we all talked about, and then how to back up your PDI with Studio, so introduction, GitHub, all that stuff, how to do it with the App Engine Studio, how to do it with update sets. And does he have exporting the actual data? Does not. So that's, I guess, the value add if you watch this live stream or you watch it later is the export sets in addition to your update sets. So your update sets are going to get taken care of if you do the GitHub with App Engine Studio or the Legacy Studio. You don't have to worry about the update sets, but then don't forget your data. That's what your export sets are for and what we covered in the live stream. So anyways, that's this week's live stream. I will be back next Wednesday 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UTC. That's universally coordinated time. I messed that up, but all my international fans, You all know what I mean by UTC. I'm 5 hours off of UTC, but depending on where you are, it's 6 p.m. UTC. Every week, we'll have live demos. So thanks, everyone. Glad to have you. We'll be back next week.